Okay, so let's see. Okay, so last class, I think we talked about Newton's first law, second law, third law. Then we did this derivations both in your 9th standard method and 11th standard method, meaning easier simple method versus calculus method, right? Calculus method is also the same thing. Only thing, it will make more sense as you study your calculus in maths. Then we talked about more about cushioning effect, right? How the time change helps you to reduce your pain in an accident, the airbag or something like that. I think the airbag, I forgot to give it over here. So they give it here, bending the knees, hitting. Oh yeah, it's here, hitting the airbag. Okay. Okay, we talked about static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium, right? What is static equilibrium? When the forces are equal, right? If it is not moving, then it is called static equilibrium. When the forces are equal, right? Equal and opposite. But then if it's moving, then it's called dynamic equilibrium. Why? Because acceleration is equal to, when velocity is equal to 0, right? Acceleration is equal to 0, which means sigma f is equal to ma. So a becomes 0. So here also, if you check the forces, this and this will be equal. So N and W will be normal reaction force and the weight will be equal. In this case, if the car is going at a constant speed, let's say 60 km per hour or 80 km per hour, constant speed, the engine forward force should be equal to the air resistance and friction. So it means sigma F is equal to ma. Constant velocity means acceleration is 0. Why? Because acceleration is change in velocity by time. Change in velocity becomes 0. So that means acceleration is 0, which means this becomes 0. What this means is this is equal to this. That's the meaning of this. So F forward is equal to F air resistance and F friction. Okay. I hope no doubts in this part. Anybody having any doubts? Anything which you tried and having some doubts? No doubts? Okay. Let's proceed with the next topics. This chapter is slightly lengthy, but extremely important. Okay. So each page, each concept is very, very important. So you have to study, pay extra attention to this chapter. And remember, this entire concepts will be coming even in your 12th standard or college or wherever you go, everything will be there. Okay. Because everything is based on forces. This I may have explained it somewhere else. Okay. So again, since this is an important concept, again, they may not ask you these concepts in the exam, but only if you understand these concepts, you can do your numericals confidently. So when the ball is thrown upwards, right? Once the ball goes out of your hand, you are not giving any force, but the force of gravity is pulling it downwards. But then the velocity is going upwards. Okay. So when the velocity, so this we call it as direction of motion. This is called direction of direction of motion. It's nothing but your velocity direction. Okay, this is your force direction. So when the direction of motion is this way, going upwards, whereas the gravity is pulling it downwards. So what happens to the velocity? The velocity actually decreases. The speed decreases. Okay. So whenever the direction of motion and the force direction are opposite, the speed decreases. Okay. Another example, you can take down this example. Another example is applying the brakes in a car. So the brakes are applying the force in the opposite direction. So the speed keeps on decreasing. Another situation is when the ball is falling down. So what happens? The motion is this way. Direction of motion is downwards. The gravity is still acting downwards. So the gravity is still acting downwards. So that means when the force is in the same direction of the velocity, what will happen is the velocity will increase or the speed will increase. So speed increases. When it is a circular motion, right? The velocity, we studied that it is always tangential to the given point, given circle. So that means this is the velocity direction or the direction of motion, right? Of course, it's changing at every point. But we said the centripetal force is acting down towards the center. Centripetal force. Okay. So when the force and direction of motion are perpendicular, the speed does not change. The speed remains constant. And that's what we called it as uniform circular motion. Okay. I think that's where I explained you already. So common misconception is motion and force are in the same direction. This is not true always. So don't assume that the force, whenever there is a force, definitely the body should be moving in that direction is a wrong understanding. Okay, so it depends upon what is the velocity with which it is going or which direction it is going and what direction the force is happening. Anybody, any questions? Can I move on? By the way, I think I wanted to share this information also. So I think I sent you this in the WhatsApp group. Did you receive this, everyone in the group, WhatsApp group? Okay. So see, all these students, for example, this guy Rohan is from Yuva Bharati, I think. So some of you may be knowing your seniors. Okay. Anybody know any of your seniors, school seniors? Rohan is Yuva Bharati, Nandini, DPS, Srinidhi from Gujarat, Suresh from PSBB, Kanav CS Academy, Abhishek, PSBB, Varshita, DPS, Purnima, CS, Divyesh, PSBB, Sarvesh, Yuva Bharati, Sham Surya, DPS, Dhanwant, some school in Pilameda, I don't remember the name, Madhuvant, CS Academy, Akash, CS, Sanjay Stains, I think Sanjay was ISC Stains, Preetham, PSBB, Tarun Yuva Bharati, Dasharna, DPS, Shyam Sundar, GD Public, Shivakumar Yuva Bharati. Okay. So I'm sure some of you might be knowing your seniors. The point I'm trying to, hello, yeah? Do you know somebody?
Yes, sir.
Who?
Preetham, sir. Yes.
Preetham, Okay. PSBB, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So, as you know, they had to take the marks from 10th standard, 11th standard, and 12th standard. Okay, the pre-board exams and everything. So as I've been telling you, we don't know how far this pandemic is going to go. So please take your 11th also very seriously. Okay, if there is a situation, I hope things will get better in the next 1 or 2 months. Okay, but suppose if there is something not going well, then they may consider your 11th marks also for your 12th board exam. So of course, whatever you're studying right now, it's important, but taking the board exam from 11th and 12th, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So luckily these students had some good scores. For example, Rohan, he studied right from 11th standard, he has been studying very well. So as I always say, as you sow, so shall you reap. Okay, so there is no magical formula here. Whatever you do, you're going to get the benefits out of it. Okay. So all of you are capable of getting good scores. Okay, that doesn't mean that the marks is very important. I'm not saying that. Your understanding is more important. Okay, so for example, this guy Shyam Sundar, his understanding is very good. For some reason, he said that the schools have done some mistake in the calculation of marks. So many of them have scored less marks. So those kind of things might also happen sometimes. Okay, so the point is, all of you are capable of getting good marks. Okay, good marks are required for you to enter into good colleges. But more than that, the knowledge is also very important. Entrance exam marks is also important. So do everything properly. Okay. I see some parents were complaining to me that some students are spending a lot of time in the night playing video games and all those kind of things. Okay, video games is something which you have to do it in a very minimal way, minimal amount. Okay, if you are spending more than say 15 minutes in a video game, then you are spoiling your eyes, you're spoiling your brain. Okay, you are going to become much more duller and your health is going to be spoiled. Good games, you can go out, play cricket, play football, whatever games you like, play that. That is going to help your brain to be much more receptive. So after playing, if you come and sit in the class, you're going to be much more attentive in the class. Yeah, of course, not too tired, but So if any of you are like that, addictive to video games, don't do that. Okay, if you're sitting in the same place, you're going to put on weight, your eyes are going to be spoiled. Okay, your brain is going to become much dull. So don't do such things. Okay, maybe in a weekend, probably play for say 10-15 minutes, that's all the other times, try to play something good. Or if you don't like games, go for a jog, go for a walk. Some kind of physical activity is good for your health. Okay, and it's good for your studies also. And physics, as I always say, if you are very attentive in the class, all you need is less than say half an hour per day. Okay, not even half an hour. And in a week, probably if you spend some 2 hours, you can finish all the classes which we completed in that class in that week. So you don't have to break your head or struggle so hard. Maybe during the numericals you have to do some hard work. Okay, I agree that. But then for the theory, you don't have to break your head. If you are attentive in the class, this 1 hour 15 minutes, if you are attentive, after that all you need is another 15 minutes for you to sit together and study them together. Any questions? Anything which you would like to say? So all these things, are students just like you. If you study properly, you will be in the high flyers. You can go to the college whichever you want. Otherwise, if the marks are very less, then you have to choose whatever colleges if you want. You may not be able to choose that. Whatever is available, you will have to take that. Okay. And another thing I would like to emphasize is you need at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Okay, if you are sleeping less than 6 to 7 hours, then it's not good for your health. You will not be able to focus on your classes. Okay, particularly this online classes is much more difficult. So if you are not getting this much sleep, so make sure you are getting the sleep. Generally 11 to 6 is a good time. Okay, so pay attention to all these things. If you are sleeping say 5 hours or something, obviously you are going to be very angry in the daytime. You will not be able to focus properly. Okay, So it's something like, recharging your battery. So if you don't do this, you will not be able to function properly in the daytime. Do you folks agree or don't agree? Anybody not agreeing or anybody agreeing with this? Nobody agrees?
I agree.
Agree? Okay. Agreeing is one thing, following is another thing. Okay. I know many of you are wasting your time in the night time. WhatsApp message, this, that. So try to reduce all those things. Okay. So you need to have enough sleep. And morning time, try to do some exercise or some walk, jog, whatever you like to do. Only then you will be able to, survive this pandemic. Okay. It's very, very hard right now. Sitting for 12 hours in front of computer is not an easy thing. Okay, at least I think you are sitting at least for more than 5-6 hours. Okay. Okay, so let's see, where did I leave? Okay, then let's talk about the sky jumping. This physics behind sky jumping. This is a very interesting concept, so listen carefully. So this is your velocity. This is your time. So when the guy jumps, let's say you're going in a plane or something. So when the guy is jumping from the plane, right? Initially the weight is acting downwards, right? And there is not much of a air resistance. So the air resistance is going to be very, very less. FAR is your air resistance. So this, you are falling downwards, and then the gravity is also, this force is higher than this force. So the net force is acting downwards, which means what will happen to the velocity? Velocity will increase or decrease. I'm falling down and the force is also acting downwards.
Increase.
It will increase, which means the speed will start increasing. Okay. But then as the speed increases, what did we say in the previous class? Air resistance, what happens? When you go at 5 km/h or 60 km/h in a two-wheeler, when do you face more air in your face?
So 6 km/h. It
60
will increase.
60 km/h, right? So I said
Yes,
60.
sir.
So it means as you are falling down, right? What happens is the speed increases, which means the air resistance will also increase. It's not going to be the same. So that means as air resistance increases, listen carefully and draw carefully. All these things have a meaning for it. Okay, this arrow should be smaller, this arrow should be bigger, but the weight does not change. So the weight is always the same. So this is increasing. So since this is increasing and the force is decreasing, right? The net force is decreasing because this is same, but this is increasing, which means the net force is going to be still acting downwards. But the problem here is, since this is higher, right? So it will try to come something like this. So listen carefully as you are falling down, right? At some point, what will happen is the mg is here, the air resistance is also equal to mg. So when this force and this force, if you want, mg can be written as fg, gravitational force. The mass does not change. When I say mass, the mass of the person and mass of the gear, the sky jumping gear, whatever you have, the parachute and all those things. Remember, we have not opened the parachute yet, right? So the parachute is yet to be opened. So you must have seen this in these kind of things in your Discovery Channel or National Geographic, right? So initially they don't open for a long time, right? They'll be falling down, and sometimes they will be, falling down as a group. Have you seen this? They'll be holding the hands. And at that time, if you see, the parachute is not open. Do you agree what I'm saying? Have you seen it?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
they'll be, falling down together. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is when the forces are equal, right? So when sigma f is equal to ma is the most important formula in mechanics. Okay, 90% of the time, again and again, we are going to use this. So when this and this are equal, what will happen? The sigma becomes 0. Sigma f becomes 0. Mass cannot be 0, which means acceleration is equal to 0. Acceleration is equal to 0 means I told you there are two possibilities. Velocity can be 0 or velocity can be constant. So what do you think will happen in a sky jumping situation? Do you think he will stand still in the air or he will be falling down?
Velocity will be
Constant.
constant.
Velocity will be constant. So it's not this situation, it's this situation. So that means he will still be falling down, but the velocity is not increasing. Initially, the velocity is increasing or the speed is increasing. But when the air resistance is equal to the gravity, right, you will come to a point where the velocity is constant. So this is your velocity is equal to constant. This we have a special name when this curve becomes flat, right? We call it as terminal velocity. To take it down properly, the diagram is not clear in the handbook. So all these things are very, very important. So draw it properly. So it's called terminal velocity. Terminal means what? Coming to a stop. So the velocity does not increase further. So it's stopped there. So I mean, he's still moving, but I'm saying that the velocity is not increasing further. So that's why it's called terminal velocity. So since the velocity is not increasing, the speed is going to keep on going like this. If he comes and hits the ground with this speed, is it safe or is it going to be dangerous?
So it will be dangerous.
Dangerous. Why? Because you are coming down with a very high velocity, right?
Yes, sir.
So what do we do? So we don't want to come
increase
down.
the air resistance or we decrease the velocity.
Okay, how can you decrease the velocity?
So by like in cars brakes, so we are velocity again.
Do you
Force
have any
again.
brakes here?
No,
You're
sir.
falling down?
Parachute.
Parachute, right? So at some point, an experienced skydiver will know that, okay, when to open the parachute. So at some point, he will open the parachute. So the moment you open the parachute, what happens? The air resistance will be much more higher. Why? Because I told you a BMW car is going to have a much less air resistance compared to a ambassador car in the olden days, right? I don't see much of an ambassador car these days. So the air resistance, the area is much bigger here. The area is almost the same, but then the design is something different here, right? So that means the parachute is going to increase the air resistance. So the air resistance will increase suddenly to a very high value. What happens to the weight? Does the weight change or does the weight remains the same? Mass of the
Weight.
person?
Good.
It remains the same, sir.
Yeah, so the weight remains the same. So there is no change in the weight. So in this entire diagram, right, as you are falling down, the weight does not change. But now look at the forces and tell me which way is the net force, upwards or downwards?
Upwards.
Upwards. So the net force is upwards. So that means once you open the parachute, the guy is going to start moving upwards. Is that true?
Yes, sir. Not moving upwards, just going more slower. That's
Okay.
pushing him upwards in a way.
What did we study in the concept here? When the force and direction of motion are opposite, what happens to the speed?
So 0.
It's not
Decreases.
0, the speed decreases, right?
Decreases, sorry.
So earlier the speed kept on increasing. Now what happens is the F net is upwards. So take it down properly. F net is upwards. So that means the speed will decrease, but still you are going to fall down, right? You are not going to go upwards. Speed decreases. So that means the curve will go something like this. Unfortunately, I'm drawing it like this. If you want to, you have to draw it. You can draw a dotted line or something. Okay. As the speed decreases, what happens to the air resistance? Does it increase or decrease? As the speed decreases, you are going at 100 km/h in your bike, right? And you are decreasing the speed. So what happens to the air resistance? What do you feel? Decreases. So that means FAR again will decrease. So that means as the FAR will decrease again. And at some point, what will happen? The mg will be equal to FAR. So that means the decreased speed will be safe for you to land in the ground. So as you can see, when they land, they will just run along with the ground, right? So they will run along with the ground. So why? Because it will be in the order of say 1 meter per second, 2 meter per second, something like that. So it will be a low velocity, which means you still have to run along with the ground so that you don't get hurt. So that means here also the F is sigma F is equal to ma. So sigma F is equal to 0. So that means velocity is equal to constant. So this is terminal velocity 2. The top one is terminal velocity 1. That's all. Very, very simple if you understand the entire diagram in a proper way. This, I don't think it's given in your textbook, but very often they will ask you some questions based on this. So take it down properly. Any questions? Any doubts? There is some meaning for this diagram. Okay, so you have to keep showing this. The man is falling down, meaning coming down. So you see, this is lower than this is lower than this. So you have to draw it in a nice way. And then the arrows are also important. So that here the arrows should be equal. Here the arrows should be equal. Here this is slightly smaller. Here this is very small. Here it is very big. So everything has a meaning for it. And this flat line has a meaning, terminal velocity 1. This flat line has a meaning, terminal velocity 2. So if you don't take down the drawing properly, then you're not understanding the physics properly. Can I change the screen? Anybody still copying? I've shown it, but I don't think the diagram is so clear. So I would say take down the diagram properly. Okay, so whatever we talked about it is explained here. So here the FAR resistance is less. Here it is equal. Here the FAR resistance is very high because you have opened the parachute. Here the speed is decreasing, which means the air resistance is decreasing, which means this and this are equal, which means this is terminal velocity 1, this is terminal velocity 2. This is y-axis is velocity, x-axis is your time. Any questions, any doubts? Can I move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Subtraction of vectors, we have already completed it in the 4th chapter. So maybe I can give you a quick revision. Okay, so it's just going to be a revision. You already know this. So let's quickly do this. A is here, B is here. So vector addition means we said parallelogram. That means we said this is B, this is theta, this is also theta, this is B sine theta, this is B cos theta. So we said this is your resultant and that is your alpha. So the resultant is using this big triangle, right? We said B sine theta the whole square plus a plus b cos theta the whole square. That is your resultant. So you would have got a squared plus b squared plus 2ab. I'm not going to go through everything quick right now. So you should have got this. And similarly, we got tan alpha is opposite by adjacent. So b sine theta divided by a plus b cos theta. Why? This is a and this is b cos theta. So it means a plus b cos theta. It's exactly going to be the same thing for subtraction. Only thing, the closing angle, closing side is like this, okay, instead of a parallelogram like this. So we are going to do the same thing. So look at this. This is theta. So if I take a line over here, I am interested in finding a right triangle. Why? If I find a right angle, right triangle, I can use my Pythagoras and I can use my tan alpha. Without a right triangle, I cannot use Pythagoras and I cannot use the tan alpha formula. So that means I'm trying to find a right triangle here. So b theta, which means this is opposite side, b sine theta. Anybody not following? Opposite side is sine theta, adjacent side is cos theta. Adjacent means nearby. So this is nearby. This is opposite. So this is b cos theta, but this is falling inside the a, which means this has to be a minus b. So if I take this triangle, this is b sine theta. Okay. And this is b cos theta. So what did I do here? B sine theta. So if I do the right triangle, oh, the right triangle will not work here because here this right triangle worked. Here it will not be right triangle. So similar to cosine law. Okay, using cosine law, I would have found this one, right? I wouldn't have used the right triangle here. But for the alpha, I think I'll be using. Okay, I said right triangle. Okay, so that means this is theta. So cosine law means this side is c squared is equal to this square plus this squared minus 2ab cos this angle. So from this cosine law, right, I got this one. That is what is your a minus b, this magnitude. If I want this angle alpha, right, so this is my a minus b. If I want it with respect to a, I should take this as alpha. And that's where I think I use the tan alpha. So opposite by adjacent. So opposite is b sine theta. So b sine theta. Adjacent is this length. This length is, the total length is a and this length is b. So that means this length alone will be a minus b cos theta. Anybody not following this? The total length is a. This is b cos theta. If I want only this length, it will be a minus b cos theta. And that's why I got this one. Similarly, what if the b is outside this? It's the obtuse angle, means it will be like this. In that case, the right triangle will be formed not with the theta, it will be formed with the 180 minus theta. So here I have written it as b1 sine 180 minus theta. Here I have written it as b cos 180 minus theta. So do the same thing. If I want alpha, right? Again, this one for the third side, you can use the cosine law. Okay, you don't have to use any Pythagoras theorem. But for the alpha, you have to use this right triangle. So what is the right triangle? Opposite is b sine 180 minus theta. And this adjacent side is b cos 180 minus theta plus a. Here it was falling inside a, so I have to subtract it. Here it is falling outside a, which means I have to add it. So the total length will be this plus this. So I think I made a typo error here. So correct it in your handbook. So it's actually plus here. So that means a plus b cos 180 minus theta. But what is cos 180 minus theta? Second quadrant. So already we talked about it. So all silver teacups. So cosine is going to be negative in the second quadrant. 180 minus theta means second quadrant. So this will become minus cos theta. So that's why you get a minus. So I try to show that both the things will work to give you the same answer. So you don't have to think that depending upon obtuse or acute, this will change. No, it does not change. You get the same answer. So basically we did a revision for vector addition and vector subtraction. Okay, anybody not following? Particularly people who joined recently, if you have any doubts, please ask me. Anything which you are not following, please ask. No doubts? Can I move on?
Understood, sir.
Again, whenever you are using handbook, you have to have a rough sheet, okay, rough notebook. So brain, paper, pencil. Okay, very often I will be telling you BPP, brain, paper, pen or pencil. So only if you have, when you start writing, right, you will understand things. You know, instead of writing all these things, I would have talked through this, do this, do that. And obviously most of you will not understand anything if I talk through this, without writing it like this. When you write it, your brain will start working very well. So always remember brain, paper, pen. So if you don't have a rough sheet and if you are not working it out, you are not studying physics. Okay, let's go to the next topic. So why did I talk about subtraction of vectors here? Because very often you will be getting into a situation where a ball was moving this way. So there is a mass, there is a velocity, which means the momentum is mass into velocity. Okay. But let's say there was some force acting on it. And after the force hitting this ball, let's say it's going in a different velocity, v2. So that means the momentum P2 will be mass into V2. Okay. So that means, suppose if this was say 10 units, and suppose let's say this is 20 units, then what is force? Force is change in momentum, right? Rate of change of momentum. So that means if I want force, I will say rate of change of momentum. But what is change of momentum? Change in momentum. Change in momentum will be P2 minus P1, which means I can say 20 minus 10, which means it is 10. Is this correct or wrong? Anybody noticing anything drastically wrong? If I give you 5 Newton and 2 Newton, what will be the total force?
So can you repeat the question, sir?
If I give you 2 forces, 5 Newton and 2 Newton, what will be the total force, resultant force?
7 Newton, sir.
Any other answer? Nobody is giving any answers.
So it depends on the direction.
Depends upon the direction.
Direction change.
Yeah. So Veer sleeping seems right. I told you 1,000 times. Whenever I give you forces like vectors, you should not simply add them. What did I say? You should consider the direction. You should ask me what is the direction.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Without knowing the direction, if it was in the same direction, what you said is true. But what if it is in the opposite direction? Then you have to subtract it, right? What if it is 90 degree? What if it is 60 degree? So depending upon the direction, that will be a different answer. So that means 1,000 times we have talked about this, still you folks are making mistake. So always remember, whenever it is vectors, you should not do simply vector addition. Similarly, look at this momentum. Is it a vector or is it a scalar? Momentum. Does it have a direction? Mass into velocity. Does it have a direction? Momentum.
No, sir.
Surprised nobody is answering. Does the velocity have direction? That means momentum is also, this is scalar. If this has a direction, this will also have a direction. So that means this is also having a direction. So that means this is completely wrong. So take it down like this, only then you will not make mistakes. So scalar subtraction. So scalar subtraction is wrong. So what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to do vector subtraction. So if this was angles, right? What I would do is I would draw the V1 here. I would draw the V2 here. Sorry, mass into velocity momentum. So this is your P1. This is your P2. M into V2. So you know that subtraction is it P1 minus P2 or P2 minus P1? Anybody? Final minus initial or initial minus final?
Final minus initial.
Yeah, so it's always final minus initial. Okay. But in relative velocity concept, we will be taking it the other way around. So don't get confused with that. So here, difference means final minus initial. So that means the arrow will be going this way or this way. First one or the second one, which one is correct? So nobody has studied the previous chapter properly.
So second one, sir.
No, second one, which one is the final here? Where is it coming? What did I say? Final minus initial. So that means
Yes.
it's starting from here and it's going here. So this is your final minus initial. So if I want P2 minus P1, I should be taking the first one, not the second one. So again, mark all these things. Only then you will understand that this is wrong and this is the correct one. Okay. Very often you will be making these mistakes, silly mistakes. That's all. So now you know why we talked about subtraction of vectors. Okay. Because very often we are going to be dealing with momentum. We are going to be dealing with forces, which means you should not do scalar subtraction. You are going to do vector subtraction. Change in momentum, del P. So here also I made a mistake. I'm supposed to show it as P2 vector minus P1 vector. Take it down. Anybody still copying? Can I move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are all I have simply applied A and B. I have replaced A and B with PF and PI. That's all. Okay. I'm not going to explain this. You can do it yourself. Then there is a concept called friction, right? So I'm sure all of you know what is friction. So what is friction?
No opposing force.
What?
Contact force.
Contact force. Okay. Anything else? What did you say, Deepika?
An opposing force, sir.
Opposing force. Okay. So if I had a rough table, right? If I put some kind of a block, 5 kg block, right? So as I push this with certain force, right? So you know that there is going to be some kind of a opposition for this motion. And that is what we call it as F friction. Okay. Why does that happen? Because, microscopically speaking, if I put this under microscope, right? If I see under microscope, what you will see is there is some surface roughness in the block, and then there is some kind of a surface roughness on the table. So obviously you can imagine that it's going to be very difficult. Why? Because this will get caught inside this. Okay, that means both will be hitting each other, and which means you will not be able to move. And that is what is happening in a microscopic situation. This is the mechanical explanation. There is another electrical explanation for that. Okay, this is even more interesting. So the electrical explanation says that you have some atoms over here and you have some atoms over here. So you know that there is something called intermolecular forces of attraction and interatomic forces of attraction. Why? Because this nucleus, okay, let me draw it a little bit bigger. So there is a nucleus, then there is some electrons in each atom. There is some nucleus here, and then there is some electron over here. So it's not only the mechanical thing which we are aware of, it's also between the forces of attraction in the electrostatic forces. So this nucleus can attract some of the electrons from here also. So there will be some forces of attraction. This nucleus can attract some electron here. Of course, there is going to be more attraction for this electron, but there might be some kind of a force of attraction between this and this, and similarly this and this. And this is what we call it as interatomic forces of attraction. Or if you consider molecules, you can also call it as intermolecular forces of attraction. Okay, so that means it's not only the mechanical explanation which we are aware of usually, right? It's also, why should it stick together? Because this nucleus is attracting this minus. This nucleus is attracting this minus. And that's what we call it as interatomic force of attraction. It's also a reason for friction. So that means when I apply a force here, right, this is still pulling it this way backwards. So that means there is some kind of a force this way. So this is your 5 Newton which I am applying. This is your friction here. Okay. However, friction is somewhat empirical in nature. Anybody know what do you mean by empirical in nature? I'm sure in chemistry or somewhere you must have heard the word empirical very often. No answers? So empirical is more like an experimental.
So basically, like based on your observations, you can say.
Experimental observations, yeah. Okay. So you cannot really prove it using a theoretical mathematical methods. Okay. So you don't have theoretical proofs or mathematical proofs. So it's all based on experiments. Okay. So take it down. This is the theory of friction. I may not have given it in the handbook, so take it down properly. And of course, go through the book also. Okay. So I'm just trying to give you overall understanding. So you should not come and complain, sir. I wrote exactly what you showed in the class, but my class teacher did not give me marks. So please don't give me those kind of complaints. Okay. I expect you to go through the textbook also. Because some of the things I may be giving you some extra diagrams, extra concepts, which is not there in the textbook. So you still have to read through the textbook also. Okay, now a very interesting concept. I have a very nice experiment in the lab, but we have to wait for a longer time to show the experiments. So let's say there is a table like this, rough table. So when I apply, let's say this is a 100 kg block. When I apply certain force, let's say I start pushing it with the single finger. So I'm just pushing it with the single finger. Let's say I'm applying 1 Newton. Do you think this block will start moving or not?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. Why?
No.
Why?
Because of the weight and added force of friction.
Added force of friction. Okay, very good. So that means if I say 1 Newton is applied this way and it did not move, what does that mean? Can you imagine that the friction is providing 1 Newton? Is that correct or wrong?
Yes, sir.
Yes, because this and this will cancel, and that's why it did not move. But my question is, why can't it be 10 Newton? If I say this is 10 Newton and this is 1 Newton, what will happen? The block will start moving this way, and that does not happen. So since that is not happening, right, I hope you will agree that if I apply 1 Newton here, the friction is also giving 1 Newton. If I apply, say, 10 Newton here, let's say the block is not moving. That means I'm going to say that the friction is also providing 10 Newton. Would you agree or not? Because it's not moving.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If I give, say, 60 Newton, for example, right? This is also 60 Newton. At some point, right? I don't know what point. So approximately, I'm going to say around 900, let's say 65 Newton. So up to these points, right? What happened was block stationary. Right? But once this block starts moving, right? I'm going to say that if I'm applying 65 Newton, this is not going to be 65. So maybe it's still giving you around 60 Newton. So now, can anyone tell me what is sigma F? I'm applying 65 Newton, friction is giving 60. So what is sigma F? Sigma F is 65 minus 60. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
So this is this way, positive side, this is negative direction. So that means this is 5 Newton. So that means the block is not going to accelerate for 65 Newton. The block is going to accelerate only for 5 Newton, depending upon the mass. If this was 10 kg, then I have to divide by 10. So which means acceleration is 0.5. If this was 100 kg, 5 by 100. So which means it is 0.05. So the acceleration depends upon the mass. So take it down. Once the block starts moving, once the block starts moving, right, the friction does not increase. Or in other words, only when the force does not increase further, the block starts moving. So it's the other way around actually. Okay. So take it down properly. I think the proper explanation would be when friction stops increasing, the block starts moving. The block starts moving. Until then, it does not move. Why? Because this is equal to this. It's a very important concept. I don't think it's explained properly in your textbook. So take it down properly. Generally, we don't like numbers, right? We like, again, don't write the numbers in the exam. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that you have a proper understanding. Once you have a proper understanding, any textbook or a handbook, whatever you are using, that will give you a proper idea, right? But if you don't have the proper understanding, the textbooks, YouTube videos, animations, nothing is going to be useful for you. So look at this. As time goes on, right? Let me check whether it is time or F external. Okay, it's F external, not time. This is F internal. Sorry, F friction. What did I say? When I applied 1 Newton, here also it was 1 Newton. That means the point is here. When I applied 10 Newton, here the friction was also 10 Newton, which means the point is somewhere here. When I applied 60 Newton, the friction was also 60 Newton, which means the point is somewhere here. But then I told you, when I applied 65 Newton, right, the friction did not increase. So that means initially, as I keep on increasing the force, right, the force keeps on, the friction keeps on increasing. To take it down properly. But then once the block starts moving, this friction did not increase. So that means we'll show something like this. So here what I'm applying is I'm applying the force to move it. Until this point, it was the block did not move. So this we are going to call it as static region. This we are going to call it as kinetic region. Kinetic or dynamic region. I think we call it as kinetic. So the friction in this region, we call it as static friction. Here we call it as kinetic friction. So what happens is the kinetic friction is slightly less than the maximum static friction. So this is your maximum static friction. This point is maximum static friction. Again, as I told you, sometimes we may not be able to give a proper reason for it. Based on the experiments, they come up with this diagrams. So the kinetic friction will be slightly less than the maximum static friction. The static friction will keep on increasing until the maximum static friction. After that, it will become constant. Here I would call it as kinetic friction, which I already written here. Is this clear? Anybody not following this?
Yes, sir.
So when you try to push a table, right? A very big table or a big bureau or something like that, like a cupboard. So initially, it will be very hard. Why? Because you are in this region. But once you start moving, right, it will become much easier. Why? Because you already crossed this bump. So since you have crossed this bump, once it starts moving, right, it's much easier for you to keep on pushing. But if you stop it, again, what you have to do is, again, you have to go across this bump. And that's why, if you start moving, you have to keep on moving. If you stop it, again, it's going to be difficult for you to push. Any questions? Okay, so that's what I have shown here. Okay, so let's see what I have written here. So first look at the shape of the graph. So as F external is increasing, F friction is also increasing. And then you see a small disturbance here, like a bump. So this is your maximum friction. And here it is your kinetic friction. So this is your static region, kinetic region. So again, based on experimental results, right, they have found that the friction is actually proportional to the normal reaction. What is normal reaction? The other day we talked about it. If the mg is acting this way, and the normal reaction is this way. Okay. And you may be wondering, sir, why can't I say the friction is proportional to the weight? Well, this and this are equal. So why can't I say it as mg? Well, This is equal only in this situation. If you take an inclined plane situation, there are many other situations where the mg will be acting this way, whereas the normal reaction will be acting this way. So what the experiments show us is it's not proportional to the weight, it is proportional to the normal reaction. So very important, so take it down properly. So Fs is not proportional to the weight, Fs is proportional to the normal reaction. Whenever we have proportionality, what do? We bring in a
Constant. So
proportionality constant. So that happens to be mu. Okay. This usually it will be based on the material. So what it means is, if I had a smooth table, right, the friction will be very, very less. So that means N is same, the normal reaction is same, but then since it was a smooth table, the mu coefficient of friction, so this is called coefficient of friction. So the coefficient of friction, what do you think? The friction depends upon both the surfaces or one single surface. What do you think?
Both the
Both
surfaces.
surfaces.
Both.
So that means if you do a Google search, right, it will not tell you coefficient of friction for a particular material. It will say coefficient of material for combination of material, steel with wood, copper with aluminum, something like this. Okay, so there will always be a combination, and then they will give you the mu value. So it means you should understand why it is a combination, because friction depends upon both the surfaces, not just one single surface. Yeah, so look at this. Rubber on dry concrete, rubber on wet concrete, wood on wood, waxed wood on wet snow, metal on wood, steel on steel. So you see all these things are combinations, right? You cannot give a new for one single surface. That is meaningless. Okay, you have to say with which surface is on which surface. Only then you can make a number. Mostly these things are based on the experiments, right? So again, you can take it as approximate numbers. It's not going to be exactly the same because it depends upon the surface, right? For the rubber means not all the rubbers are going to have the same surface roughness. So different rubbers will have different surface. But for approximate numbers, you can take it from some standards. So this constant is what we call it as coefficient of friction for a given combination of surface. So take it down. For a given combination of surface. Okay. So mu s stands for static, mu k stands for kinetic. So the concepts are same. So F is equal to mu s n. Similarly, mu k n for kinetic friction. That's all. Any questions? Any doubts? Okay. So I see folks are very quiet. So maybe we can have a quiz in the next class. So be prepared for the quiz in the next class. Okay. These concepts are very, very easy. Okay, nothing very difficult at all. So let's quickly finish this. Then you are free to go. So when you apply a force this way, right? Normal reaction is acting upwards. Friction is acting this way. So you see the forces acting from the friction point of view, right? So we say that the normal reaction and the friction should be taken this way. So that means this is your resultant force. Okay, so that is what is opposing this here. So the angle of friction is taken as this angle theta. So what is the angle between the resultant and the normal? And that is what is called angle of friction, or that is how angle of friction is defined. So tan theta is equal to opposite by adjacent. What is opposite? You know that this and this are same. So that means Fs by N. So tan theta is equal to Fs by N. Why? Because this is Fs static friction and this is normal reaction N. Okay. But we just know we studied that Fs is proportional to normal reaction. Fs is equal to mu s N. So if I bring Fs by N, it's nothing but mu s, which means Fs by N is nothing but mu s. So that means tan theta is equal to mu s. So the coefficient of friction can be easily found using this theta experiments. Or if I know mu s, I can calculate the resultant direction. Any questions? As you do some more problems, I think it will make more sense. Okay. So for now, take it down this. Or if you have your handbook, just make a note. Whatever is missing, you can take it down. I'm assuming it's easy. If you have any doubts, please stop me. This is even more interesting. So listen carefully. I have an inclined plane like this. I have inclined it with the horizontal, it is theta. If I have a block over here, the mass into gravity, which is gravitational force, will always act downwards. But what we do is, we can split this into two components. We can split this way and this way. So that means if this is theta, this is also theta. If this is theta, right, adjacent means mg cos theta. Right? So this is adjacent and this is opposite. So it means here this will be mg sin theta. Maybe if you are not following this, you should go back to the basics. So this is theta, this is f means we said this is f cos theta. And opposite direction is f sin theta. Either we can show it in the opposite direction or you can show it here. So that's what I'm doing here. So this is mg, this is adjacent, which means mg cos theta. The opposite is somewhere here. Maybe I should show the arrow a little bit smaller. But it's okay. No, maybe I should show this arrow a little bit here. Which means this mg red line will be coming a bit bigger. Okay. Which means this is your mg sin theta, but this and this are equal. Okay. I'm not drawing it in a proper scale. So anybody not following this, please stop me right now. Mg, if this is theta, this is also theta. Why? Anybody? That's a separate trigonometry you should follow. So let's quickly do that. If this is theta, so take it down properly. If this is theta, this is 90 degree. This is 90 minus theta. If this is 90 minus theta, this is also. So if mg is acting vertically downwards, right? So if this is theta, this normal reaction, right? This is 90 minus theta. This is also 90 minus theta, opposite here. It's very hard for me to write it inside here, so take it down properly. This is 90 minus theta. So this small triangle, again, I don't have space, so you draw it properly. This is 90 minus theta means this is 90 degrees. So what can you say about this angle? Anybody?
Theta, sir.
Theta, that's all. So that means whenever you see an inclined plane, immediately say that if this is theta, this is also theta. That's all. So you understood, take down this trigonometry once. Okay. Whenever you see a theta here, you should say this is also theta, the angle between the vertical and this normal reaction. Take it down quickly. Maybe if you want, I should have drawn it a little bit bigger so that everything should be fitted in the same diagram. Okay, what I forgot to show is this normal reaction. So this is your normal reaction. So this normal reaction line is what is coming this way, and that is what is your theta. So this is a vertical line. This is your normal reaction line. What do you mean by normal? It is always normal to the surface. So if this is a surface, it is perpendicular to the surface, and that's the meaning of normal. Okay, it's already time, so I don't want to rush through this quickly. So maybe we can start again in the next class. Okay, if you want, you can go through this, see, try to understand it, come before coming for the next class. Very easy. Okay, nothing very difficult. Okay, so your homework is to complete whatever concepts you have studied so far. The first part was about Newton's laws. The second part is about sky jumping, the simple concepts, important concepts, and then vector addition. So all these things are packets of, I wouldn't say packets of energy, I would call it as concepts, right? So each block is a concept. If you understand the concepts, the problems will be, everything should be put together. Okay, so I will stop here. If you have any doubts, you can stay back. If you have any concerns or anything. So Deepika, you said you got your 10th results. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming all of you got it. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
that's very good. So
Mine will come in the end of this month.
okay.
IGCSE.
Okay. So share your marks to me in WhatsApp. Okay, I'm interested to know how you have scored.
So currently,
Yes.
I can only contact you through my mom's mobile, sir, because my phone broke. So if you're sending anything like the slideshows and all, you can send it to my mom's number, sir.
Okay.
My phone broke, so yeah,